This is our Your Shot at Summer Minnesota campaign to try and roll out some incentives. You've seen this happen in some other states. Minnesota's vaccination program has been progressing incredibly well. We continue to remain among the top states of getting folks vaccinated, timeliness, and I'm very proud and I think appreciative, especially with Dr. Nathan Chimello and the work that's being done around equity in our vaccination program. But we know there's more work to do. We knew from the very beginning that kind of, if you will, the final mile would be the hardest, to try and get to some of the harder reach communities, folks who might not have transportation issues, might have more problems. And then as this progressed, as folks got more information, maybe to get out there, and now we're going to add a little bit more to that, a little bit of an incentive if folks get the shot. So starting tomorrow to the end of June, to help push us over our goal of 70% of our 16 plus, which is a little more aggressive than the federal goal, of folks vaccinated. We've got just a little bit ways to go. So for 100,000 folks, we're going to try and get as quickly as possible here. There's some incentives that you've seen, whether that is a pass to Nickelodeon Universe, to Valley Fair, Northwoods baseball games, the aquarium up in Duluth, and then of course the ones that people are really looking for are the fishing licenses and the state park permits to get you out there. And I think after a year of being stuck at home, a year of being close to home, we saw, and the commissioner will talk a little bit about this, an unprecedented demand for fishing licenses, hunting licenses. And as I was up at Lund Boats here a couple weeks ago for the fishing opener, outdoor equipment is selling like hotcakes. And people have realizing we're very blessed to have the resources that we have here. We want to encourage people to get out there. And if those things don't do it, then a $25 Visa card to put in your pocket. And our purpose is very clear on this. To enjoy those things this summer, we need to be vaccinated. Our numbers are incredibly good today. Just several weeks ago, we were the second highest state in cases rising. Today, we're the third lowest state. And our projections and our modeling, and I want to thank Mayo Clinic for this, we're almost spot on. We figured by the end of May that our vaccination program and the mitigation efforts that we had taken would blunt that surge. That's proving to be true. This gives us a wonderful opportunity now where we get a lull. Hospital bed usage is at nearly a year low, and we're starting to see drops in the lagging indicator of those unfortunate deaths. All of those things are the perfect timing to get the last bunch of folks to get in and get vaccinated. Take advantage of the incentives that we're offering. Get out and explore Minnesota. You, your family, your community will be safe, and you'll get to see the great things that we have. So we're excited to announce this. We're just letting folks know. Commissioner will talk a little bit about it. There's going to be information up on both MDH's website. We'll put it across state governments' websites to show you how you do this after you get your vaccine. And now with the state fair having walk-ins for J&J vaccine, that's the one I got and my family got. That's one shot and you're done. You swing out there tomorrow, get your shot, you're done in 15 minutes, and then you get online and you pick what you want to do and you pick your incentive. We think it's a great way to kick off summer. It's Memorial Day tomorrow, and it coincides with, again, of course, on the 28th tomorrow, all of the mitigations are removed from businesses, business capacity, and those types of things. So it will be a true Memorial Day weekend. So just grateful, and with that, just my privilege to turn this over to Commissioner Stroman of the DNR.
Thank you so much, Governor. And I think it's so fitting that you chose Fort Snelling State Park to unveil the new package of incentives, not only because State Park annual permits are one of the incentives, but also because we've seen really clearly over the past year how strong our outdoor spaces are connected to public health. And so I think this is a great space to talk about this. When I started this job, when I came in as commissioner, one of my priorities was really to help connect and reconnect Minnesotans with the outdoors. And one of the things we talked about to encourage people to go outdoors were the health benefits, the reduction of stress and anxiety, and why being outside was good for you. And now here over the last year, who could have known that at that time how obvious and how important that concept would be in the lives of Minnesotans over the past year. And really what we've seen during the COVID-19 pandemic is Minnesotans went outside. They went outside in really big numbers. They got away from their screens, they got away from their TVs, and they went outside. And parents taught their kids new outdoor skills. Some adults learned new skills for themselves, or people reconnected with traditions that they've enjoyed for their life outside. And so we're really excited to be able to include the fishing license and the state park pass in this incentive. We know that Minnesota's lands and waters are really the envy of states across the nation, and we know how important they are to Minnesotans. And again, we've seen that this summer. I think this incentive and including these two outdoor items really is a great opportunity to emphasize that connection between public health, between that reduction of getting outside and reducing your stress and anxiety and feeling better, and our outdoor spaces. And another reason why our outdoor spaces are so good for us, it's also an opportunity to connect people with the outdoors and build that coalition of new and diverse stewards of our outdoor spaces for this and future generations. So we're really excited that this inclusion of the fishing license and the state park pass is in the Shot to Summer incentives. I think it really builds on our work to connect Minnesotans with the outdoors. Basically, folks can go to the Minnesota Department of Health website as they choose their incentives, and if they choose one of the ones from the DNR, that information will get forwarded from the Minnesota Department of Health to the Department of Natural Resources, and we will then take care of issuing the fishing license or mailing the state park permit. I just also want to say that for folks who choose one of these two incentives, for those folks as well as really for all Minnesotans, we really encourage people to be good-natured when you're out in our outdoor spaces, particularly with our state parks. They've been really busy, and that's wonderful to see, but it means there's a lot of people trying to use those spaces. So one thing we're encouraging people to do is to go online and use our park finder. It's mndnr.gov/park finder. And you can find a park that is maybe new to you and get out and explore all of the diversity that we have in our wonderful parks. And I'll also say that we have some great other stewardship tips if you go onto either Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram and search #BeGoodNatured. So I hope people enjoy these wonderful incentives, hope they enjoy the outdoors, and please be good-natured. Thank you, Governor.
DNR is wonderful with their catchphrases, the be good natured. I'm going to start using that. But we're grateful you're all here. Minnesotans, we're really close on this. We're trying to push down towards the end. As I said again, we are in the final stages. We'll manage COVID for quite some time, but we will manage it. It will not dictate our lives. We will not have to take the measures that we've taken, and that is in no small part because of the vaccine and certainly Minnesota's willingness to take the vaccine. So for some of you, you've had some time now, you've seen this, we continue to get good information out, consult with your physician, get good information from a neighbor, but take your shot to summer. With that, questions?
Is this coming out of your $500 million pot of federal COVID money? How are you paying?
It will come out if there was money allocated in the recovery that was specific to it that we have at MDH that was used to be able to incentivize or to get out information, just like we did some of the public service announcements and things like that. That's what it will come out of.
So is it from the federal money, or is this something the legislature?
No, it's federal money that will come to us. It's part of the COVID relief.
But from not necessarily the most recent.
No, not necessarily from that. So it's part of the recovery side.
Can you talk about how you landed on these specific
Yeah.
provisions for the incentives? Obviously, other states are doing lotteries and free college tuition. Why did you cater it towards these activities?
Yeah, and the one thing is that we were, again, looking at it, making sure the things that we could do. The other thing was, if you looked at the other states who had some of the early initiatives, we were further along in the vaccination rate. So the slowdown when it starts to come to incentivize people, kind of timing, we wanted to match a program that we thought matched Minnesota. And I think especially these dealing with the outdoors was very Minnesotan. We do want to encourage people to get out there. We hope that these are lifelong. This might be some people's first fishing license. We hope they buy one every year after that. And so we wanted to tailor this to Minnesota attractions, staying and doing things in Minnesota, and just did and thought that spreading it out further, we got 100,000 people can partake in these, just fit Minnesota better.
Governor, any concern there's not enough of a wow factor, like $1 million prize or a college tuition,
Yeah.
to really get people's attention?
Yeah, maybe. I don't necessarily fear that. I think the issue is you get a little bit of that. I said all along, I think there's some data needs to be on this. I don't have the hard data to show that this will increase a lot, and the other states haven't done that. I think we believe it will. We believe that this is a good way to try and get some excitement back in it. We did talk about that, and continue to say, you know, are there other things that we can do? I just think this one is that you're not in a lottery. Like in those states, it's all or nothing. Somebody might get 1 million, but there's going to be 100,000 that are getting nothing. Here in Minnesota, everybody's getting something, and these are pretty nice things to have, I think, for families to be able to take advantage of.
Would you consider those bigger things if this doesn't have the desired?
We'll consider and still look at everything. I think that's right. The one thing is that I told my team is that I hope Minnesotans aren't thinking they're holding out when there's like 10 people not yet vaccinated and they think we're going to do $1 million lottery with those 10 people. We probably won't do that, but we will still consider things if it gets there. And I still think where this is simultaneously with education for folks, still trying to get out there. And again, like I said, there's a whole lot of people right now out there, whether they're working agriculture, they're working jobs where they can't get off. These things might not appeal to them as much as being able to get a day off work to get the shot and recover the next day. We're still encouraging employers to work with us, but we're still look at it. We just have to keep knocking out. I think that number's now shrunk to somewhere around 262,000 to get us to that number, and so every day we keep going down. It was taking us about 3 days to do a percentage point. Now it's about 5 days, I believe. So it slowed down some. That was predictable. We hope maybe this gives a little bit of a boost to it. So it was interesting that I saw, I haven't read the whole analysis yet coming out of CDC. It appears like when CDC made the mask change, that there was a boost in vaccinations, which there were people that were worried that when they did that, if it would go down, it actually went the other way. And that might have encouraged some folks to say, well, now is the time. Because I still, every morning, I'm really agonizing over, our numbers are really good. We're under 2% positivity today. Things are going really good. We're down 16% in hospital beds just in the last 5 days. But that lagging number of deaths, and it's just so more apparent to me now more than ever when you report 10 deaths, that is 10 people that were not vaccinated. And these vaccines are almost 100% guaranteed to prevent against death if you get them. So, early on in this, it was hard to tell who was getting it, who was more vulnerable or whatever, but the data is pretty solid right now is that chances are above 95% that if those 10 people had been vaccinated today, that they wouldn't have died. And that's what we're really trying to encourage.
Governor, who do you think this is targeting? Sorry.
No, please don't.
Who is the person that this is reaching out to? I mean, there's plenty of skeptics who have concerns about safety. There's people who have struggled with transportation barriers. Who is this reaching, you think?
Yeah, I think it's probably that younger age group is what we think. It might even be parents saying, well, the kids are going in now get them in now. It might be Nickelodeon, might be that, might be the state parks. But I'm thinking more that 18 to 35 group. They're healthy. They're not anti-vaxxers or anything. They've been a little busy. Now, especially when it's walk-in, somebody, I don't know, maybe it was one of you who said it, talking about that Generation Z are not appointment people. They do not sit around to wait for a TV show to come on. They do not want to wait for their packages. They want Prime to send it by this afternoon. And I think there's a group of folks out there now that the ease of this, to be able to walk in one shot and there's an incentive, that may work. But I would, clearly acknowledge, and I think these other states that are doing this, I think there's some pretty good, data that shows that the incentives kind of work on this. But I think have to be realistic. The pool of folks who could get it has shrunk, and the reasons why they're not getting it, we're still trying to clarify. And some of them are just, we know that there's a certain percentage of folks who say they're just not going to get it. We're going to continue to try and work on them. Maybe this.
Governor, there was some discussion by the MDH yesterday about inequities in the vaccination. Why not take this money and put it into those community groups, put it into that outreach, that push out rather than the draw?
Yeah, we can do both. And I think right now with that program over there, and most of you know for the last month, we've been putting 40% of the vaccines into that. We're actually seeing, and I asked this question on our briefing yesterday morning, are we seeing evidence of that? And the answer is yes, we have closed that gap some. So I think it's right now that just the capacity that we have, we can't add a whole lot more capacity to that outreach effort right now, and it is working, and this is just in addition.
Governor, I'm from CCO Radio, and this may sound a little silly, but we sometimes hear from listeners or texters who think, well, what about me? Can't this be retroactive?
Yeah, I know.
I'm wondering if you put any thought into that, or is kind of the reward to get to 70% and that benefits us all?
Yeah, we have thought about it, and you know, somebody said, well, gee, what about, you know, I waited in line, I drove to Duluth to get my shot, just like you asked, and I didn't get anything. The first thing I would say is thank you for doing that. The second thing is you did get something. You got immunity, both for you and your community. I think, again, I don't want to say that people who are waiting for the incentive don't find a moral imperative to get that. There's just more to it. We've talked about that. Is there something at the end of this where we do something, you know, that everybody who got vaccinated, it's a strange thing to get in. We talked about how did we incentivize people, and the idea of monetary incentives, and Tom is right, they got splashy about this, you know, Governor DeWine, and he and I talked or whatever. I'm interested to see if their numbers go up. They think preliminary, they might have got a little boost off that, but we'll see. But we do talk about that, and I think the vast majority of people who got the vaccine were happy to get it. They were glad to do it, both for their own health and for the community, but this is just one more addition to that.
Governor, is there any concern with the two-dose vaccines that people might get the first one for the incentive and then not follow through with the second one?
Or go get a third.
No, yeah, yes, or say I haven't gotten a shot. That's what we did. Actually came up. I asked the question, if you do a lottery on this, well, who was somebody going to say, well, I'll go take the Johnson & Johnson now, it's one shot or whatever. You know, we keep the records on this. It enters into the system. This has been pretty good about that. We've done really well, knock on wood, on that uptake. I think nationally the number's about 5%. I think we're a little bit less, like 2.5% of who haven't come to the second one. So I don't think so. When you tell folks, you know, you come in and get it on the second one, but it's a good point. I still, you know, it would be interesting to see, of course, with the pause that was put on Johnson & Johnson, rightfully so. Now it just gives people more confidence. That one, the sense of ease around the one shot, I'm kind of curious to see what's going to happen out at the state fair with the walk-in one shot, because it just doesn't get any easier than that. That is literally a 15-minute commitment, and 16 minutes, 1 minute for the shot, and then 15 to sit there while they make sure you're okay.
One more?
Governor, real quick, we're coming to the end of May. The special session's coming up next month. Given Majority Leader Grizelka's message about during the one-year anniversary of Floyd's death, it doesn't sound like the Senate's going to budge on police accountability measures. Will you sign a budget without those?
Well, I don't agree with that. I think they are, and I think there's a good faith effort, and I think it's important to show some grace in this. And I will have to say, I've obviously expressed my frustration. I wanted to see them move, but we've been talking all this week, and I'm getting the impression that there still is conversation happening, and that there's movement on both sides around reforms, because I do believe that Democrats and Republicans, House and Senate, do understand that we need to have reforms in policing, and it's not a simple you're for the police, you're against the police. It's more that these are operational things that can make it better. So I hear them still continuing to talk about the no-knock warrants. They're talking about some of the data, and I say this as a teacher, and I want people to know this. It should be easy for parents to be able to see in a school if a teacher has any disciplinary things in their past. The same thing should be held with police. And I'm hearing that from Republicans saying, yeah, we're not necessarily opposed to that. So I think there's every reason to believe. I'm not setting this thing up as an either or. I thought those things were, that's just not conducive to good negotiations and good policy. This week has been some really good conversations. And I know that the conference committees, I've spoken to some of them, and then I've spoken with multiple times with Leader Gazelka and Speaker Hortman, and those have been cordial. They have been, I think they can speak for themselves. I think hopeful that we can get something. We've challenged each other in these negotiations. They do get a little tense at times, but much like last year, I leave those conversations and step back and say, well, that's a good point. That is a good point. Can we go back and do this? That type of stuff is happening. We can take a couple of
Just really quick,
Yeah,
on the police issue, part of the kind of shift in tone from Leader Gazelka is, well, we shouldn't be doing police reform changes when we see the crime that's happening in Minneapolis with an uptick in shootings, 3 young children, that we need more cops on the streets, he said. So is there any thought from you, and you talked to Mayor Fry about, State Patrol coming in to help, because Minneapolis is down several hundred officers?
Well, the State Patrol's job is the trunk highway system. We are in Minneapolis and St. Paul. We're on the highways. And I disagree with the idea that we shouldn't be doing. Reforms are all about this. And we know starting to get better information about what's causing some of these things, gang related in certain instances. Obviously, the gun issue has got to be addressed, but I think absolutely, and we're seeing this across the country and not just in Minneapolis, that we need to address some of these. And we know, again, this is a much more complex issue. This isn't just, strictly police on the streets, but we do need to address that. And we have been there to try and provide the support we can. We continue to work both with the cities, but this idea of setting this up that we can't do anything about this because crime is out of control and we're not willing to help you. I remind folks, these are the folks that aren't willing to budge on rebuilding these businesses. They're not willing to budge on some of the things we need to do that we know. And one of the things I've been saying since January, we needed the kids to have something to do this summer. That's why I was so adamant about the summer programs that we could do, some of the incentives, and there wasn't a sense of urgency around that. So this isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. It is the exact time to talk about this when we're seeing crimes that need to be preventable, especially gun violence amongst young people, need to be part of that conversation. So I don't see those as mutually exclusive.
Governor, tomorrow is May 28th. Most of the restrictions, I believe, go away tomorrow. Full
Yes.
capacity is allowed. Are you still convinced Minnesota's on the right
Yes.
track and that you're okay with all
Yes, I am. And so we got asked these questions. Remember in April, many of you asked, and there was concerns because Minnesota and Michigan, Oregon, we're seeing some of those highest spikes. Our vaccination rates, the mitigations we had in place, I was convinced we wouldn't overwhelm the hospital system. We would see this work out. And our belief was in that modeling that you were going to see a significant drop-off, which we've seen 50% drop-off in cases in the last 10 days, that by the end of May and then the movement outdoors again would make that big difference. So I feel very confident. I was just thinking about this, that the Wild win that game Friday night and we're back to a full house here in the next round. So that's the things that are all out there. But I feel confident about it. I think people are doing, and all of us in here, we respect the local ordinances that are still out there. Businesses are still making adjustments for folks who are unvaccinated with masks. But we are now 2 weeks in from the change on the mask mandate. We've had significant change in Minnesota since that time, since the 8th of May when we made those changes. And then tomorrow, you'll see that full capacity go back. There is nothing in the numbers that indicate that we're seeing any rise at all. It's continuing to drop. It's following the pattern that we thought it would. And that will only get better as the vaccination rates go up. And I think most of us know summer should remain relatively flat and at a very low, keep this push down. And barring some variant, when this comes back and we see a spike in the fall, the universe of people who can get it is going to be much smaller. And that would indicate we could just go on.
So you did this as an incentive for the Wild, is that what this was?
Yeah, we hope. I said, I know they're excited. They fill the X with this if we get that Friday night.
Okay, last one.
Yeah.
There are Republicans who want you to end the $300 a week unemployment boost, saying that it's creating a worker shortage for restaurants. Would you do that?
Yeah, well, we're going to, and the federal government will do this. Just to be clear, that again, the simplicity on this, we know one of the quickest things that we do. I saw a really a statement today by someone who said, this worker shortage is causing me to have to raise wages and benefits and be more flexible with people. Yes, that's how economy works when it's fair for everyone. And so the other side of this equation is, and I don't deny that you can disincentivize on some things. I don't believe here in Minnesota that the $300 of the federal edition is disincentivizing the large number. I think what we're starting to see is a realignment of folks who aren't going back to the same jobs. They're looking for a little bit better wages. And we're starting to see, and this was long overdue. And I'm certainly, empathetic to business owners that have to make that balance. But I've always believed it certainly can't be on the backs of workers. So we'll see that end in September, federally, one way or another. We're seeing, and we'll get job numbers. The federal job numbers were incredibly encouraging today. I think we'll see federal job numbers come out, and then we'll follow soon. I believe here in about 10 days. My anticipation is that we're going to have a lot more people entered back into the workforce. We've already seen that. We're back to, I think, 6th in total workforce participation in the nation, and unemployment rate that I believe is 8th. So we'll start to get there. I know that that's a narrative that's out there, that you give people this $300 and they'll stay home. There's a lot of good, solid data around that for the most part, that's not the only thing that does it. So we're hearing them. We're doing all we can. Just to be clear, though, I do believe it's our responsibility, and Commissioner Grove and Deed has done this. we're actively getting folks, pushing jobs towards them. We've called through every single person who's and made contact with them who's still receiving unemployment and trying to move people as quickly as possible. Because I agree that I was up at Lund Boats and they're saying, just get us some folks. We'll build more boats. You get us more people, we'll build more boats. And again, for most of the vast majority of Minnesota employers, it's not because they're not paying a wage. Up there at Lund, they certainly are. They're well above minimum wage. They're well above $15 an hour for that goes. We just got to get people to where they're at. So I think you're going to see, we didn't think this would necessarily be a V-shaped fast recovery, but it feels to me like, and all of the data coming out of the federal government is, the economy's continuing to grow. Some are saying 6.8% for this next quarter. That will mean people need to get back into the workforce. And I think it would be my prediction you'll start to see that. One of the things where we know we've been heavily dependent on, especially in the hospitality and outdoor industry and up north with the resorts, is they use a lot of the J1, the visas to bring folks in, and they don't have those. Any of you who've gone up north, there's a lot of young Eastern European workers who come for the summer to fill those jobs. They're not there, and that's making it twice as hard, especially when I was up in Otter Tail. The folks up there are saying their reservations are higher than they've been for many of them since they've been there. So, I mean, Minnesotans are ready to go. We do have to figure that out. So we'll keep working on them. Well, I want to thank you all for being out here.